Gasbender Podcast is associated with Avatar: The Legend of Korra Online.com and ComicRelated.com.
Hello everybody and welcome to Castbender, your number one Last Airbender and Korra related podcast. You are here with your hosts, Teagan Chevrier.
Hi.
And Tyrell. Listen, AJ's sick this week. I'm still sick, but I'm doing this anyway because I love you all. So yeah, we're back with episode 65 of Castbender. Last week, an okay episode. We talked about some stuff. I honestly forget.
I don't remember.
I was completely out of it. So if you want to go check out episode 64 of Castbender Podcast, you can go and do that. I believe we talked about...
the movie, yeah.
The movie. The fan-made movie. I believe that is still going on. And if you want to go check that out, go do it. And if you don't know what we're talking about the search being made by fans into a movie. And of course, after the disastrous live-action debut of M. Night Shyamalan's Last Airbender, people are wary, but, you know, it's okay. This is fan-made. I think it'll be a little bit better. It's essentially cosplaying and a whole bunch of other crap. But yeah, you can go check that out. It's been a busy and stressful week. Lost my MacBook. Didn't lose it.
Yeah,
but,
I was going to
lost it to some screen malfunction. Took it to an Apple retailer thing. They said it would be good by Friday, like last Friday before the weekend. It wasn't, so they don't ship on Saturday and Sunday, so they said Monday, and I called Monday. Nope. Tuesday. Yeah, we have the part, but and we're going to put it on. Come around at 3 o'clock. So I'm on the bus going down to get my Mac, and I get a phone call, and they're like, yeah, they sent a faulty part. It doesn't work. We have to order it again. So you can come down the next day and get it. Maybe. So I called today. Nope, they don't have anything from Apple, so I'm still out of luck. So I don't know about the YouTube videos. I'm going to try to do it, but I don't know how it's going to be. It probably won't be in the format that I want it to be in, but we'll try to upload it on YouTube. Mm-hmm. We got featured in our school paper. We go to university at Brock, and the Brock Press published an article about us. And it's also going to be online this week, so as soon as it's online, I'll link to that so you guys can read through it. It's a nice short article. We'd like to thank the Brock Press and Steve, who wrote the article, and he's the editor of the, I believe, Arts and Life section of the Brock Press. He was very good to us and helping us, and he said he's going to be listening to the show, so Steve, if you're listening, thank you very much. And yeah, it's been good, and we're ramping up here now, I think, on The Legend of Korra. The best part about this off-season I found is, this is your first experience at an off-season, Teagan, but it's never been quite dull. It's had its moments, but overall, we've gotten a consistent amount of information.
Yeah, there's always something for us to talk about on an episode, so that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah, the Rift's coming out tomorrow, I believe. That's the first of that section. You can buy it and you can pre-order the second one already. Gene Lang just followed us on Twitter, which is cool. He writes the comics and creates them along with Brian and Mike, and that's cool. We're going to try to reach out to him to see if he's coming on the show. I can't make any promises. I probably shouldn't have said that, but regardless, we're going to try to get him on the show. We want to try to get more guests on the show, especially the ones that are making making content within the Avatar and Korra world. So we're going to reach out to all those fun guys on Twitter, Gene Lang, Jeremy Zuckerman, all those people. So yeah. Also, the Oscars just happened. Yeah. That's not really Korra related,
but
media. It's
related.
media. It's media related. And I'd say it's a fairly good Oscar round this year. Ellen hosted the show, and I think it was pretty damn good. And Dallas Buyers Club did fairly well.
Yep.
Won Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, which is the first movie to do that since the 60s, apparently. So, yeah, go check out Dallas Buyers Club. We watched it last night.
Yep.
We were fairly impressed by that movie. And all the movies this crop, go check out Wolf of Wall Street, 12 Years Slave, Her, Gravity, which also did exceptionally well.
Yeah,
and
on the technical side.
On the technical side, and Best Director.
Yes.
I'm quite partial to Alfonso Cuarón, who directed Gravity, because he directed the third Harry Potter movie, which is like one of my favorites. And
it's my favorite too.
I think he's a brilliant director, and he deserves all the awards that he's getting. This week we're going to continue along with talking about more Korra speculation, and specifically the many villains. This has been a pressing topic. Kevel wrote an article about it on Avatar the Legend of KorraOnline.com. Pardon me. And one of the main gripes with people is the many villains that could potentially be in the next series. And that wasn't really set in stone per se until some more comments were released. So through a Spanish-based website, an article regarding the current status of Book 3 for Nickelodeon Latin America. I guess in Latin America, Avatar is huge as well, so that's cool. The author mentioned Spanish voice actor Oscar Olivares, who recently published a photo of himself on Facebook recording the voice work for Mako. Olivares confirms that all of the voices involved in the previous Legend of Korra Spanish dubs will be back for the Book 3, and the voice actors confirmed for Book 3 will contain many villains. So essentially, the guy who plays Mako confirmed that there's going to be many villains.
Yeah, the guy who dubs the Spanish
the guy
for
who
Mako.
The guy who dubs the Spanish for Mako confirmed that there's going to be many villains. Now, this sparks a couple areas of conversation. First, we want to address that, and a lot of people have been addressing this. Typically, America, or North America, is the hub for everything, getting stuff first. And this off-season, America hasn't really done anything. Nick America, the Netherlands, I believe it was, or somewhere in Europe, did the trailer.
Yeah.
Now, Latin America, Nickelodeon is doing the interviews and stuff.
Yep.
So, this brings me to my first question, Teagan, for you.
Oh, okay.
Why do you think Nick America, or Nickelodeon North America, forsakes Avatar specifically The Legend of Korra, when it's like probably, if not the biggest franchise they have?
I don't know. Maybe it's not that there's a reason that they're sort of ignoring North America. Maybe it's that they think they need more promotion in other parts. So they're pushing promotion there, encouraging interviews, releasing the trailers there in order to get more promotion, and they just assume that the North American viewers will watch no matter what. Yeah,
and I'm all for it, because living in Canada, even though we're like bordering the United States and we are like so integrated, our societies are integrated with each other so much, and we use so much of each other's resources. Even Canada gets shafted half the time when it comes to content that's only exclusively in America. So I'm glad that places like the Netherlands and Latin America are getting the content first, because they deserve it. They've never had it in a lot of areas, so this is good. And it's been no surprise that AJ and I have disliked Nickelodeon in the past, and a lot of people, I think, dislike Nickelodeon and what they do. And Kevel mentioned, and it's fair to say maybe it's a marketing scheme, to be quite honest. We didn't really know much about Book 2. It didn't get marketed, but then its ratings tanked compared to Season 1. And, you can blame that on a bunch of different factors, from, the story not being as good, or, no marketing. But there was no marketing for it, so you'd think they'd probably invest a little bit more time, especially when it's one of the flagship programs of their
exactly.
network. And the news is, I'm not very fond of the news regarding many villains, and we're gonna be discussing that. You've had a couple speculations. Do you want to go through some of the villains that people are speculating might be in season 3?
Yeah, well, there was talk of the Earth Queen, which we don't know really a lot about, but a lot of people thought maybe she'll be a villain. In the trailer we saw those people who were sort of unidentified, maybe Earthbenders, that seemed to be getting, I don't know, pushed away or whatever by Korra. Who else was there?
Yeah, it could be Earthbenders or the Earth Kingdom as
Yes,
a whole.
yeah,
the attack on several White Lotus members.
Right, yeah.
So those are kind of like your 3 huge...
Yeah, the big ideas.
Now there's other ones.
What could go on.
There's other ones floating around of people thinking and having their own suspicions.
There's Varric. We don't know if he could
Varric,
be
Varric,
something.
Or to Loch Legends believes Toph's father. So you have some other characters that either don't exist or pre-exist or have some other motive beforehand that could be a villain.
Yep.
But we're not exactly sure. But you have, and then not to mention in the trailer alone, it hinted at a lot of other new things that are going to take up screen time. And one of the main problems with Korra is not that it's not good, but it's got so little screen time every week to put in content. Most shows that are of this variety or want to do things on the scale of what Legend of Korra is doing, do it in 47 minutes or 43 to 47 in a 1 hour block of television. Here we have a 30-minute block of television where there's only like 22 to 24 minutes of content typically. And in 24 minutes, that's not a lot of time to really do much.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of comments, and we're kind of just going to bounce back and forth between some of the comments and everything. And first, we'll start with the comment I left that a lot of people seem to agree with, is the problem with Book 3 and what it needs... the problem is Book 3 needs to deal with a bunch of competing character stories.
Yeah.
You know, everybody loves Korra, or at least a lot of people love Korra. So you need to continue along her story. The show's her namesake. She is the main character. She's the Avatar. So of course you're going to do that. You have to continue to take Mako and Bolin and develop them. I'm sorry, but honestly, they're both very underdeveloped characters. They haven't and that's not their fault. That's just because the story hasn't allowed it. There's not enough screen time to allow that. You need Asami. Asami's probably the most underdeveloped character of the whole Team Avatar 2.0. And a lot of people want to see her be important. And if that's going to happen, that might. But I'm now strongly feeling towards the fact that it won't, even though I'm one of the biggest supporters of Asami being a bigger character. Not to mention you have a whole bunch of other characters that were important in past seasons that you need to address. They've already said they're going to talk about Lin's backstory. Well, that's Lin and a bunch of other things. What about Tenzin, Jinora, Iki, Milo, like that whole storyline? You need to address that. And the problem is, it's all underdeveloped because of the scale, the grand scale that they're making Korra at. Again, I think they're trying to bite off more than they can chew. And it's great that they're going to have dragons, possibly Zuko, the White Lotus, the Earth Queen, all this stuff. But more villains make me think, once again, that we'll see promising characters not get their rightful due as some other favorites, like Korra, for example. And they'll be shafted. Amon could have been a great character, but he didn't develop into something. What do you think, Teagan?
I agree. I think Jinora definitely needs an explanation. So that's something they're going to have to add.
But they won't, I don't think.
Well, that would be unfortunate. We've got this entire plot with spirits, which I think would probably need to be involved somehow. You can't just open the spirit portals and then expect, I don't know, it never to be mentioned. As you said, Lin's backstory, the Earth Kingdom, we keep getting all of these promises of all of these things that they have to fit into 12, is it? I don't know.
12, 13,
12, 13, 20-minute episodes. I don't know. It's going to be tough to fit it all in without making it over the top.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It still has to be a story that someone's going to be able to follow. It can't just be, introduce a new character episode, it's got to be fluid.
Let's go to the comments so we can see some other people's suggestions, voices from the community, and then, kind of talk about them. So the first comment I want to talk about is Sibius, I think. Sibis. And, okay, so there's a couple paragraphs here, so I'm going to kind of skim. Hopefully I get everything you're trying to say, if you're listening. More villains could be good. Korra and the group only seem to work best when they all have a common enemy to punch in the ground. It could also mean better pacing and less feet dragging on the characters. Villains as a group over single standout ones is better for writing and doesn't require much input. Motive doesn't need to be any further than simple and opposition of Korra for the portal decision and forced coexistence. Earth Kingdom I expect to be the nation to push back strongly on Korra's coexistence. They really had issues with the Fire Nation foreigners colonizing on their land. Now there are spirit invaders colonizing their land with Korra behind it. There's also a possibility that Korra can be made out to be the villain to the people through the use of propaganda such as tactics. Oh, propaganda and such tactics. More than half of these villains will likely be created by or through Korra. Okay, great points in here. First one I want to talk about is the fact that you have this long-running theme of the Earth Kingdom being invaded. So the Earth Kingdom has struggled longly with the fact that the Fire Nation had come in and taken over portions of their kingdom for colonizing. Very realistic issue, and it happens all around the world, so it's a very common thing. Now, the Earth Kingdom has fought back, and after Aang, the colonies kind of coexisted, and around where that happened, Republic City was formed, and it's essentially the multicultural, not really multicultural, but the melting pot, the mecca of that creation. So when Korra releases the spirits to roam free, there's going to be a lot of them, and the biggest landmass is the Earth Kingdom, so a large concentration of them are going to be there, especially because Republic City is kind of adjacent to the Earth Kingdom.
Okay.
So, do you agree with Sibius or Sibis here that it could be a problem? And that's a compelling theory behind why the Earth Kingdom could be pushing back.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a possibility. I found your point about the use of propaganda interesting because that was really sort of a theme that we saw in the first season.
Yeah.
With, people not agreeing with what their government's doing and what the Avatar is doing. I thought that's really what got me kind of hooked on Korra because it seemed almost a little more, mature, compared to the last Airbender. So it's an interesting idea that they're kind of fighting the power in a way. I don't know. I definitely think it's a possible thing.
Propaganda is a useful tool too.
Yeah.
And it's the Avatar is as great as a lot of them are because we get to see firsthand experience of what they do because we're following their lives. From an outsider's perspective, a normal civilian's perspective, it's like anything. Sometimes you don't like what the leaders of your government / the people that make decisions do. And like everything, the Avatar is just another human being, and they make mistakes. So obviously, Korra, Aang, Kuruk, Kyoshi, Yang Chen, they've all made mistakes before. And they probably faced adversity in those times. So Korra facing this could be a big theme of, maybe everybody hates Korra at this point. So Sibis, we really enjoy your comment.
Yeah, I like it specifically because once Korra sort of left the portals open, it was obvious that spirits are going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. But I like that point because it's interesting that maybe it's not spirits really being the problem. Maybe they're just hunky-dory. Maybe it's actually the benders and humans who
hold the prejudice against it.
Yeah.
Somebody commented back, I like how you compared the Fire Nation and the spirits. I agree the Earth Nation has to be exhausted from facing invaders, though I don't see how many villains can be a good thing. Sure, in a 20-episode season, but not in 13. Now, Sibius retorted, many villains can translate to consortium.
I guess.
I'm usually pretty good with words. I don't know what that is. It might not even be real, but I hope it is because it's very cool. Where members are spread out in the world with their hands in everything with an objective to control and manipulate the world, like the Daily on a global scale, every part of the world. Then wherever Korra and Co. is, they are likely to come in contact with members of the group. So that's another thing that's interesting. You could have the fact that many villains could mean that they could be part of one.
Yeah, one group. Like, back to season 1, you have the, like, what were they called?
Oh,
the Equalist. Maybe that's what one would consider many villains, even though they had one main leader, but there were many. I don't know.
Yeah, you faced diversion through the Lieutenant, Hiroshi, and then Amon. Yes. Oh, and Tarlok, Tarlok, right? Yeah, Tarlok, the brother.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a while.
That's bad. But though I don't necessarily class them as villains, they do definitely stack up as conflict. So it's like Avatar: The Last Airbender with the Fire Nation. You had Zuko, you had Zhao, you had Azula, you had Ozai, you had a bunch of different. You had the Bullseye guy, Combustion Man. You had a bunch of. I don't know if the Bullseye is right. I think I'm thinking about Bullseye from like superheroes. Have you ever seen Bullseye? He like throws stuff and he can hit it perfectly. No. He's like an X-Men. Okay, never mind. Combustion Man. They just look similar. Sorry. If you know what I'm talking about, if you don't, you probably think I'm crazy. But you have all these kind of characters that face or cause conflict for the Avataring group, so I could see that. I wanted to address another comment. Okay. Internal meaning says, do you want to read this one, Teagan?
Yep. Look how the prospect of multiple villains, Varric and Unalaq, turned out in Book 2. I hope, if this is true, that the villains of Book 3 are working together and have the same goal. Otherwise, I fear it may muddy the plot as it did last book.
This is interesting, too, because not to say that the White Lotus couldn't be working with the Earth Queen.
Yeah.
It could be a very, very plausible thing. The Earth King, the Earth Kingdom is a very prosperous, large nation, I'm assuming still. And the White Lotus also, though they're portrayed as a good organization, and AJ says that they wouldn't go against the Avatar even if they didn't agree with her, sometimes you have a motive, right? So they might be trying to do that. So I agree with internal meaning. It could muddy the plot, definitely.
Yeah, if there's too many conflicting
We've already seen a muddy plot. A lot of people agree that the first season had a muddy plot because you had so many great ideas, but the concentration of them wasn't exactly as what everybody wanted to see. Now, Co or KO, I don't know. The many villain idea has me worried. They had trouble developing Unalaq. Having 3 or more in one season is way too much. And now CC Turmo.
Syphatirmo. You guys.
Come on, guys.
You're making it hard.
It's not only Unalaq. They had trouble developing everyone. But at least the many villains thing could come with some puzzle solving and mysteries that the whole with that whole you don't know what you can trust or what you can't trust, but yes, the chance of ruining everything has increased. So essentially, having many villains could create a puzzle worth solving. I know somebody commented on a Twitter question I asked, saying something I asked along the lines of, what's the most important thing for Book 3 to do to make it successful? And J.J. Edwards said that having one main villain for both Book 3 and 4, so there's one set goal, and that's the thing that needs to be held over. I think you need to have, if you're going to have many villains, let alone one, I think now you have to take both seasons and almost treat them as like one.
Yeah,
so season 3 will end, and season 4 will be a continuation of season 3. So if you've seen a lot of TV shows, from the last moment, whatever the character's doing in the last scene, they'll pick up from that exact same scene at the exact same time in the next. For example, if you just watch House of Cards, it kind of does that.
Like, just talking about villains, I think that a show that does it really well is Sherlock, which is on BBC. Because Sherlock, if you've seen the show, he has one main villain who's introduced I think it's in the first episode of the first season, Moriarty. And we don't actually get introduced to Moriarty until the third episode of the first season. And then he continues to be a villain throughout the second season. But in each episode, Sherlock goes head-to-head, say, with a different villain. Some connected to Moriarty, some not. So you could say Sherlock has many villains, but it has this one main villain that's carried over through seasons, and I think that's what makes Sherlock a good show, because it has that continuation, but also separation for each episode.
Yeah, and that's like Avatar The Last Airbender. Ozai was the supreme, like, he was the supreme villain. He was the one that everybody, like, I needed to defeat. He needed to defeat the evil Fire Lord, and he never actually met the Fire Lord for the longest time. For being the main villain, he never really met him. Yes, you hear about him, and you know he is the ultimate goal, but you had to go through Zhao. You had to go through Zuko. You had to go through Azula. You had to go through, like, the Dai Li, and, like, there were so many other people that you had to go through before you could get there, and Sherlock does the same thing, and I think that's one of the formulas of a good television show.
I think it's important to have a long-term sort of goal, while at the same time having shorter goals to keep people interested, so that they continue to watch to reach the long-term goal. Yeah.
Legama said, your name reminds me, could we see Ko this season? Now that the portals are open, do you think we could see Ko as one of the antagonists in the book? AJ and I have been long supporters of the Ko, the face stealer villain role, and now that the portals are open, it's possible, but again, that's just adding more to the fire, I think. It would be good, but I don't think they're going to revisit that necessarily, even though I really wanted to. Do you want to read Joe's comment?
Yeah, so Joe, in reply, said, you can't just look at all the bad examples. Take Amon, for example. He was developed very well. Juan and Tenzin, not exactly villains, were also developed very well.
Okay. So, I have some beef with this comment.
Joe?
Joe. I love you, Joe. I like anybody who comments, regardless of your opinion, and if I agree or disagree. Anybody who comments and creates conversation that's, like, effective, or at least their opinion, I like. I don't think Amon was that well developed.
No.
We didn't get to know much about Amon, and his motives, though we get to see some reason why. I don't know if they were completely 100% justified, and he was very mysterious, and that's fine. But you have to discover that mystery after all, and you don't really discover the mystery.
Like, I think having a villain who's mysterious can be good, because it can make them seem, I don't know, like, greater than life, because they're so mysterious, but eventually it's gotta give.
Yeah. But I do agree Amon was the best villain they've had in Korra so far. And that could be a bad or good compliment, because it could be bad because I don't think it's fleshed out. So that's pretty sad, but at the same time, Amon could have been, and was, a very kind of, like, interesting, complex character, but still a baby, still just a little seed. It didn't really grow into a flower. Now, as for Juan and Tenzin, not exactly villains, but were well developed. What is astonishing me is that Juan is so well developed, and he was, like, in 2 freaking episodes. He had 2 episodes, and he's one of the more developed characters.
Yeah.
Is that a testament to the fact that the creators can actually tell a really good story? And if that's the case, then why aren't they doing it with Korra?
Yeah.
Gives me a headache.
Yeah. Like, I really liked Juan, and that was probably one of the redeeming qualities of season 2. That might actually be one of my, like, favorite bits.
Yeah, that propelled season 2 to be good.
Was learning about Juan, especially for me who hasn't seen Avatar The Last Airbender yet.
All the way through.
Yeah, I don't really know a lot about, like, the history. So they can do it. They can develop a character and tell a good character story.
In 2 episodes.
Yeah, in 2 episodes.
And Tenzin, who's had a little bit more time, 2 seasons now to develop, is developed fairly well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you could say, oh, well, he's been the forefront actually a lot of time rather than Korra or whatever as the main character of the show. Or you could say that he's just used the space as well to develop, and the writers have done well just to put his bits of story in where they kind of fit. And I'm more attuned to that kind of side. And I agree. How about...
Well, just on Tenzin again, like, really he got most of his development in 1 or 2 episodes,
Yeah.
I'd say,
Yep.
that we really learned about his past and learned about him moving forward with his siblings. I think maybe the show's too focused on just action rather than characters because, you know, like they did with Tenzin, they could use action to develop characters, but I feel like a lot in episodes they just provide action throughout the whole thing, but really not a lot is accomplished.
Yeah, and that's one big gripe with a lot of things. Going back and looking at the Star Wars franchise, the original trilogy, or 4, 5, and 6, were more focused on that adventure time, or not Adventure Time the show, but adventure, like kind of story arc and traveling and the kind of space cowboy thing. But you had the lightsabers, and it was kind of mysterious and cool. And then you had Episode 1, 2, and 3 that were recently made. And they're all action, and people don't like that, actually.
Yeah.
And you think a lot of action would be great, and the visual effects and the stunning choreography would be great, but at the end of the day, when you're comparing things, it's not. And though there was a lot of action in Last Airbender, not to the scale, I don't think, necessarily. And I do like seeing bending and kicking ass, but I think it has its time and place.
Yeah.
How about Razor Star 90?
Sure. They said, I think this is a good idea. It'll be more like Avatar The Last Airbender. Sure, the Fire Lord was the big bad, but Azula and her crew, the Dai Li, Zhao, Longfang, Sparkly Boom Man, etc., were cool to have. In Legend of Korra, all we have were big bads, no smaller villains. It was always Amon or Unalaq/Vatu, a huge threat. This way, it'll be more expansive, and Avatar The Last Airbender, like traveling around the world and meeting bad guys. Plus, it'll give Korra the chance to travel more, solving more personal problems from different nations.
I like a lot of this. I agree. You had the big bad, or the bad guys, but like you said, you had Azula and her crew. I forgot Ty Lee and May. And then you had the Dai Li, Zhao, Longfang, Sparky Boom Man, etc. And then the big bads were actually not that big and bad because they fell so easily.
Exactly.
Amon barely put up any resistance because he was murked in the first season. Unalaq and Vatu were actually Unalaq Vatu, Supreme Dark Avatar for 5 minutes before being defeated.
Yeah.
So they were huge threats, but failed to execute.
Yeah.
And if you had more smaller villains that were placed around that you could see more traveling and more of the world. And I like that. I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
Lock Lover reminds us that there's 8 days until Nick up front. So I think 7 days now. So hopefully we'll be seeing a trailer/release date. We'll be covering that next week.
Yes.
Depending on what day it is, I forget what day of the week, we might push the podcast back so we can cover that because I don't want to get too far behind. So we'll see, and I'll release that through our Twitter, twitter.com/castbender. Wyatt, who also writes on Avatar: The Legend of Korra Online. Wyatt's always yours. You got a good opinion. Mm-hmm. It's obviously too early to judge if it will be a good decision to have many villains or more villains than usual. But I have to say, assuming that the information from the Spanish voice actor is accurate, that I was looking forward to much more intimate season that explored the main cast of characters rather than introducing a ton of new ones. I just hope they have having a lot of characters won't dampen other development, and that's what my main gripe is.
Yeah. I mean, I've only seen, not a lot of episodes of Avatar The Last Airbender, but thinking about that, you could say that they had a lot of villains. It's almost, I don't know, mini villains. It's almost a different sort of villain or problem in each episode. Mm-hmm. Right, but there's still, the 3 main characters. Mm-hmm. So if it's done in that way, I think it'll be okay, because you still have the development of the 3 main characters, whether it's through a metaphor over the entire episode, or just them directly talking it out. The one episode I just watched, I can't remember the name, it's in the first season, and there's a big storm, and Aang is talking about how he how he feels like he ran away. While at the same time there's this storm going on, and Aang has to go and save people and such. That's one sort of problem, where at the same time they develop characters in the episode. And so I feel like if they have a lot of villains, if they lasted, say, one episode as minor villains, it could work if you pair their struggles with character development.
Yeah, so if it makes sense with the character development. Link commented back on Wyatt, saying in theory it would make a huge mess, so I think he's agreeing. Look at book 2. We had Korra, Mako, Bolin, Asami, Tenzin, your main characters, plus Janora, Kaya, Kaya, Bumi, Eska, Desna, Varric, Tonrak, Unalak. Too many characters in a small-scale season is never a good thing. To be honest with you, Wyatt, I prefer some development before an intimate season. So far, the only intimacy that exists between the characters is the love triangle, which brings nothing but conflict to the characters and the fans. So, before getting any deeper, some preparations need to be made. It's like a profession in the world. You need the acquired skills to have a profession. You never just dive in and hope for the best. Same here. Development, then hit the intimacy as hard as you can. And Sibius also to add on to that, there needs to be world building since Korra is finally going to go elsewhere. So I like Link and what he had to say here. I forgot, you also had Kaya, Bumi, Eska, Desna, Varric, Tonrak, and Unalak. And we mentioned some of those, but they tried to develop Eska and Desna as one kind of thing, so that was cool. Yeah. And Janora, Iki, or not Iki, oh my gosh. Kaya and Bumi were also introduced. And those are interesting characters in their own regard. They were the children of Aang and Katara, so they are interesting. People are interested in them, but again, they just take away from more screen time. Plus, we're getting more Bumi in season 3, they said. So, where are they going to fit that in? I don't understand.
I feel that the writers are clinging to these characters because they directly relate to Aang. I think that they're trying really hard to give sort of a nod to older fans and to people who have seen Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think that's why they are constantly forcing these characters into the spotlight when the show should be about Korra.
Yeah. Nico said, I like book 2. I like the epic story told. Until there's something that I don't like, I have all the confidence in the world that season 3 will be good. I guess some people have the idea in their head that if it's not exactly what they want, that they'll freak out and the show will be bad. Oh well, open mind is not for everyone. I think that's a little bit exaggerated.
Yeah.
I think to assume that book 2 all around was good with no flaw is ridiculous as well. I think the fact that you can be positive and open-minded in regards to a lot of good things season 2 did. I think anything is open to constructive criticism.
Yeah, I agree. I think that looking at any show, if you're a fan, you are able to see both the positives and negatives and critique, and that's what makes it such a good show and what an important part of your life, because you're actually discussing it. If everything was just good, you'd be like, yeah, it's a good show, but there's nothing to talk about,
Yeah, even some of the greatest shows of all time. Consider Breaking Bad, that recently just concluded. Considered one of the best shows of all time. Has one of the highest metrics / IMDb ratings of all time. It's not perfect. It doesn't have a perfect rating. Plus, I can name a couple things that I thought Breaking Bad didn't do right. Yeah. And that's my opinion. And other people have other opinions of what it did right and wrong. Or some things I think maybe they did right, other people think were wrong. And that's the brilliance of it, that not everything is perfect and right. And there can always be kind of improvements. Yeah. Thus, making it a great television show.
Yeah, thinking of Harry Potter, how J.K. Rowling just came out to say that she doesn't really think that Ron and Hermione should end up together. And a lot of fans, before she said that, had that opinion. And that's, I think, having these sort of, disagreements about different things is what really keeps the community alive, because that's what keeps the discussion alive.
Yeah, and Link retorted back that it's not that we don't get our... It's so we don't get our hopes up for book 2. Book 2 is told to be dark, epic, and more serious. Much more spiritual, and it turned out to be comedy all around. Return of the love triangle, little to no spirits, etc.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and again, there's going to be more hype, and this is the best season yet, and that's expected because it's part of the marketing ploy. And of course, the creators are satisfied with what they've created, or happy with it, because they've spent and put a lot of time and money into making it. So, of course, they're going to like it. So, you kind of have to take those comments that they say with a little bit of a grain of salt. But I agree. I think all these series can relate back to Avatar in terms of making things as good as they can be and not perfect.
Yeah.
And one last comment I kind of want to address is Ligma.
Legama.
I really like this user. They're usually fairly good at commenting and having conversation with me. And they say, sorry, I had to adjust there. Well, maybe a lot of villains could mean that we are having several parallel stories of antagonists working separately, converging on one plot. One of them could be the Earth Queen, unhappy about spirit portals. Another maybe mentioned a bad waterbender girl, angry at Korra for dividing the water tribes. Others could include angry citizens of all the nations. Now the fact that they show us Varric escape from prison may be an indicator that he could be back as an antagonist in this book too. If the story is this big, I think the plot will not develop in one book, but it will be extended up to book 4. That's the only way they can manage to do this well. I'm starting to feel 12 episodes are not going to be enough for book 3. Actually, there's 14, said Blood Rose, but I suspect that it will be too small as well. And then 13 episodes per season for now. So yeah, I believe it's 13.
Yeah.
And I agree with this comment in terms of how they are stating the plot should go and how they need 2 books ultimately. Yeah. And we've addressed that. You need 2 books. I think it should have been addressed a lot earlier, but you can't really change the fact of that now. And I just want to actually wrap up on Joe's comment. Hey, Kev, at least America are lucky to actually getting book 3. UK still hasn't got book 2, let alone any information regarding when it's going to be aired. And people are like, oh, you could go view it online. Well, some people want to view it legally on the television.
Like,
that's kind of sad that they don't have it.
Yeah, you can get things online, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to watch a TV show in the format of, like, an actual TV show. You're watching TV for a reason, so... Like, I know a lot of shows in Canada, as we've mentioned before, we don't get. And, we watch online, but it's not the same as actually, having it on your TV and having the TV experience. So I can dig it.
Yeah. I'm just going to go through some other comments.
Sure.
Just quickly, we're not going to discuss them. Awesome, Watson said, every day this season is shaping up to be a little bit more like everyone's out to get Korra. One quick thing to note, this is animation. The writer's work has finished the book a year ago or more, meaning the story is locked in by now. Everyone should keep that in mind when critiquing the way the season's progressing. Jonas says, doesn't the whole many villains things refer to the fact that the world hates Korra for now solely taking the decision to keep the spirit portals open? I think it's more symbolic than anything else. That's another thing. She decided to do it. Nobody else had input in that decision, so I think that's going to be a major theme.
Yep.
So, again, if this one's a little bit short, it's not that much shorter this episode.
No, not too bad.
There's only 2 of us today, so there's only 2
opinions.
opinions.
Yeah, you're sick.
And I'm sick.
Yeah.
AJ will be back next week. Hopefully we'll be discussing Nick Upfront. Also, I know somebody left in the comments here of this article, pictures of Janora and Studio Mirror doing the animation and how beautiful it looks. So I'm just excited that they're doing
it does look
animation.
really good, yeah.
So, thanks guys. I'm going to go through some information on how you can contact us. So if you want to go to our website, castbender.ca, you can find all past episodes. You can stream it or you can download the MP3 version. And there's also the iTunes option. So if you go on iTunes, you can type in Korra and then you can hit podcast, or you can type in Korra podcast, or you can just type in Castbender and you can find our podcast. We're there. If you like listening through mobile applications, then you can, mobile application, you can listen through Stitcher Radio, the biggest distributor of podcasts through that. If you like the music today in this episode, there's a buy music at the bottom. So for our social media, twitter.com/Castbender, youtube.com/Castbender podcast, vlogs and all of that related stuff there, facebook.com/Castbender, castbender.tumblr.com, and of course we're sponsored and in association with Avatar The Legend of Korra Online. Cavill, great guy, and comic related, really ramping up their game. They have some great podcasts about animation,
it's a really
comics,
cool site.
A bunch of other stuff. So if you're into that kind of thing, then go and check that out. So today is January. March. Holy crap! It's a March already, people.
He is sick.
We're almost reaching the time where it's spring outside.
Yay! Well, my mom said today apparently we're in Canada, Ontario specifically, isn't getting spring until April.
My birthday, yay. So it's March 4th today, everybody. This is Castbender episode 65. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you soon.